Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Push the Point, where we're going to break down another hero that I think has got some cool cards for Dynasty. The main thing that he really got that is I think is worth, it brought me to having a play around with Boltyn again, which is the Spirit of I can't even pronounce that. Irania? I can't. Spirit of Irania. I'll just say that. So this new card that came out in Dynasty is really is quite an interesting card, because when you've charged with the card, so if you've never played against Boltyn, every time you play a card, you can charge a card, which means you effectively discard a card, but it goes into your hero's soul, and then those cards get used to push. So you can banish it to give a card go again if the card has more strength than its base power. Now this card, if this gets charged into soul, it goes straight into play, so you don't have to waste your turn trying to play it. It's one of those cards where you can whip it down on the board, good to go. And it gives your Luminous Ascensions an instant, effectively, which this card here is kind of one of the biggest key cards for Boltyn, which is obviously a little bit of the text is getting covered up by the Push the Point logo. But effectively, it gives your weapon +1, and if you've charged, and you've put a light card into your hero soul. If you've charged, it gives you weapon +1, and it gives you the ability to swing your weapon a second time, right? And if this does hit, you look at the top card of your deck. If it's a light card, you put it into your soul and gain 1 health. Now, there is so much with this card that it does so much work for Boltyn. You know, we've all seen these combo decks that come out with sabers, which is this card is like the pinnacle key card to make that deck work, because you just slam down multiple ones, and that means your weapons get loads of hits, and you crack the Courage of Blade hold, so your sabers are all free. It's a huge combo. I don't dig the combo too much. I'm a bit more of a massive fan of Raiden Dustbane. Now, the fact that you can put Luminous Ascension down as an instant it's way bigger than people think, right? Whenever you're playing any of your charge cards like Bolt Courage or Engulfing Light, 2 of your main bread and butter starter ones, you've also got Express Lightning as well. You need to somehow get these cards to get a go again, right? And one of the tricks people tend to do is just don't block, right? If you don't block with an attack action card, because Boltyn's ability says if you attack with a block with an attack action card, the attack gets +1. So just don't block. And then I play a 4, I charge, don't block. You're kind of putting it on me, which is one of those things that warriors do, where do you have the card or not? You know, the warriors like to play a bit of a bluffing game, and Boltyn, it's not as bluffy as Dorinthia, but still bluffy enough that if I don't have a pushover card to pump this up, then, you know, this attack is going to not get its go again, right? And sometimes you don't have it. Now, with the Spirit of Irania, I'm going to say that wrong every time. Spirit of Irania, it lets you be able to play the Luminous Ascension down as an instant. So that's, if you've probably already worked it out, play Express Lightning, charge, they declare no blocks. That's fine. I'll just play my Luminous Ascension as an instant. So I'll get my action point back straight away. So I've got my go again right there and then. And what makes the Spirit really, really good is a lot of the times if it's like my first charge card, it's sometimes not always correct to just, you know, start using your soul really early, only if you like got 1. But if you're in a push and you need to push through and you just don't have that much soul, this fixes so many stuff. Because a lot of the time when people did block and it goes over and you've only got 1 card in soul, you've got to spend that soul to give it a go again, and then you play the Luminous Ascension, but you've got no cards in soul. So the the flow and the tempo of it just doesn't work. But now that you can play them as an instant, you instantly go, okay, got my go again because I've played this as an instant, got my action point back, and now I can swing the sword and spend that one soul I've got to make sure I can maximize the use of Luminous Ascension. The other thing that this card has also really done is fixed, sort of, yeah, I'd say fixed-ish, the interactions of Via the Vanguard with Luminous Ascension. Now, Via the Vanguard says when you play it, charge as many cards as you like, and until the combat check closes, all the attacks that you play have +1 for every light card you charge. So originally it was you play Via the Vanguard, I don't know, just push it once, twice, whatever, and then it comes in for 5. But the second you play the Luminous Ascension, it closes the combat chain, so you don't get the best of both worlds of Via the Vanguard and Luminous Ascension, which was always the combination that kind of weirded people out. I was like, well, you know, you want these two, you want all of it to flow together because that's the whole point of the deck, is to make sure all the cards sync up and work in a way that you want it to. You got to do some setup, which, you know, the cards do make you set up, but these two just actively just don't interact with each other at all. But now it does, because obviously you can play the Luminous Ascension now as an instant. So Beaver Vanguard, charge twice, instant in the Luminous Ascension, not breaking the chain. The Via the Vanguard gets its go again from that, and now you've got this like supercharged Raiden. You know, if it got the +2 from Via the Vanguard, that's straight away like coming in for 5. Luminous Ascension's giving it +1, so like 6. I mean, this is big damage numbers now. So I'm loving that this card is doing all that work. It's an instant include if you're going to play Boltyn. It's a 1 copy of. It does so much work once you got it out. There's times as well where I've even used Beacon of Victory as an early point to just try and grab the card. Like, just don't, because it's only the 1 copy of. I can just play the card, play Beacon of Victory, find this card. I don't know whether that's technically the right move, but it's a card that you can use to go fetch it, make sure that's in your hand and ready to go when you need it to go, right? Now, another card I'm still mucking about with, I'm not 100% sure if I want to play it or not, is the Jubil Spellbane. Now, the reason I looked at this is because it's a 1 for 3. You know, sometimes there's times in Bolton where you're like, oh, man, Raiden does nothing, because you just get those turns where they just don't do, this doesn't do anything. But being able to always have the ability to swing free, and it's on hit, is effectively a free spell. What is it, Spell Void? Yeah, it's a free Spell Void. You got one floating around every time. It's a shame they don't stack. It would be cool if that did stack, because that way you can get that combination of Luminous. It might be too crazy, but you know, Bolton doesn't get too much love. But the fact that it doesn't, you can, if you don't have one, you get one. I think it's one of those cards where I believe I'm playing around with it. I'm not 100% sure if there's one that you do want to whip in, but just to have that extra little bit of protection from the Rune Blades and the Wizards out there, it may not even be enough, but it's better than nothing, right? Better than nothing. And most of the time, I tend to have one floating resource kicking about. This card is also a little bit weird with the Luminous Ascension. You've got to keep a bit more cards about, but most of the time, I feel like I've got some floating resource kicking about whenever I'm doing my move set anyway. So I am playing about with it, seeing if it works. If not, I'll be cutting it. But this is one of the cards that I've been seeing. Now, let's go to the deck. People have asked me because I've been playing around this on Talishar, put this up on Twitter. So here's my deck list. I'll put a link into the description as well. The Crown of Providence has been a real good include. Crown of Providence is also a very good include for most decks. I know that people have been saying the Helm of the Sharp Eye is, but I throw in some defense reactions in my deck, like Soul Shield and Sink Below. I kind of just get super worried if I'm firing off and I'm just like, and you just flip. There's something about the flipping of the card and pushing. I'm just like, I don't know. That's why I just stick with old faithful Crown of Providence. I was running the Skull Cap originally, which is still fine, especially if we're up against some ninjas, just to get that extra health. But Crown of Providence is usually the way. Null gloves. That should usually go in the sideboard as well. Oh man, I've got to update. Okay, sure. Right. So yeah, equipment wise, I've got my one Null glove. I will say the Wizards are it is a hard matchup. You just got to have something that just helps tick things down. It's almost like how Fi approaches some of the matchups. You know, you just don't try and go over the top with trying to defend everything they're trying to do. Obviously, Icelander is, you know, a bit of a different kettle of fish. You just got to just try and just present, just come at them as best as you can. It's not as good, as crazy as Fi. So, you know, you can imagine that Boltyn doesn't get much love because whenever you're trying to do something, you feel like there's always another hero that's going to do something better. But at the same time, Boltyn does have some insane ceilings that he can reach where the damage output is just bonkers. You think, crikey, I'm doing like 4, then 8, and you're just like, you know, who ends the turns on 8s, which, you know, Fi can, but you can, but with all these on hit effects and everything, it just, I don't know, just feels, I still think it's really good. I feel like it's still got some, you know, you got some powerful cards with, you know, good cost. But yeah, the Null Rune, maybe with Jubilee, Spellbane, it's just keeping you enough into the game and just making sure you're not taking that much damage. What other equipment do I have? Braveforge Bracers, obviously. Braveforge Bracers are the way if you're just going to play with Raiden. I know that if you're going to do the combo, you'd have Gallantry Gold, but if not, just stick to Braveforge Bracers, man, because, you know, the armor on that is very good. The list, I don't think it's super original. Well, let me just say it's not really the most super original thing. But if you never play Boltyn, this is what it tends to look like. You've got Bottle Courage's reds, Engulfing Light reds, and Express Lightning reds. These are your bread and butter charge cards. Express Lightning yellow as well, just because it's 0 for 3, just like the reds here, with no on hit though. But these are your bread and butter charge ones. Bolt of Courage blue as well. It's it's Snatch basically. it's Snatch, which you can't hate on that. Courage of Steel Hand red. I always keep them in the main board. You know, if you charge, give your weapon +3. Oh, just an attack +3. That's the key thing. Works on your weapon as well. So that card there is going to help push over to make sure that you do get your go again, which is pretty good actually. When you've got Assassin now, which is a brand new class that everyone's running around with. Their entire hand, some of them not, but most of the time their entire hand is just laced with attack action cards, which is something that you can utilize and help just, you know, make their blocking particularly awkward. Illuminate, also a very good card. 0 for 4. If it hits, put this in soul. Easy peasy. Take Flight now. Take Flight. It's best card in Boltyn, like by hands down. Close to Luminous Ascension, obviously, but Take Flight is just everything you want and more. +1, but that's what your tunic's for. You can play it if you charge. It has go again. It's literally the perfect card that you need. Battlefield Blitz. Well, it's one of those extending cards. I tend to find that it feels kind of similar-ish to Runeblade. You know, playing Take Flight almost feels like you're doing the whole Rivian Skies attack sort of thing, and then Battlefield Blitz reminds me of, you know, very Rune Flash, Meet and Greet. It's that extending card, but this hero can go into 4 attack stints like pretty well. You know, Take the Flight, Battlefield Blitz, Luminous Ascension. You know, that's when you're starting to go into pretty mad points of damage. Valiant Thrust is basically Battlefield Blitz, but instead of you replace the go again, this attack is +3, so the yellows are 3 with +3, so that's 6, and Valiant Thrust is, you know, 4 +3, 7. So, you know, this card is that massive pushover damage that is always overwhelming when that comes in. You know, if you Take Flight, Sword, Valiant Thrust, that's huge. It's huge amounts of damage. Fear the Vanguard. Fear the Vanguard, man. it's also, again, alongside Luminous Ascension, Take Flight, this card, it needs some setup, right? Sometimes you can look at this, and this is the card, I believe, your brain goes into the lines. Like, this is the one that goes, what is my line? What is the way? How am I going to make this work? Especially when you've got Beacon of Victory as well. Beacon of Victory is that sort of become the art knight. Yeah, I'm referencing lots of Rune Blades, obviously, because you may have tuned in, because I do. I've done a few Viscerai deck techs, but Beacon of Victory feels like that. Become the art knight, when your head just goes, right, what am I doing? How am I doing this? Now, Beacon of Victory, 9 times out of 10 is always Lunar Ascension, but every now and then you could just go, you know, if I veer the Vanguard, charge twice, that means my next attack is going to get this. And if you've got Spirit of Piranha down, then you're like, oh, okay, right. This is when things are going to get really wild. So that's Veer the Vanguard is one of the best, is one of the strongest cards. It's one of the things that just massively pushes over. It's the card that you want to try and mainly keep attacks to, unless you got Spirit of Piranha down, and then that's when things be a little bit different. But Veer the Vanguard is the one that helps out with your attack side of things. And sometimes it's just easy and fair enough to just put one on. Just put one card charged into it, comes in for 4, and then if you've got like 2, you know, an Engulfing Light or an Illuminate, Bolt Charge as well, and you've got 2 attacks, you've got a couple of cards in Soul, you know, Veer the Vanguard, charge once, you've got like, even though you've got some cards floating, you've still got kept 2 of your 0-cost cards, you know, 4, sword for 4, next attack for 4, next attack for 4, all with on hits. Really good. So this, I'd say, core cards, keep in your deck all the time, doesn't really change out. The only thing that you would change out is Brave Sword Bracers. Oh yeah, I'll put the Crown of Providence there. The other one is Halo of Illumination as well. Wizards. You got Spell Void. There you go. Just keeps you in the game just for a little bit. It's not, you know, between Spell Void and Jubilee and the Null Rune, worth giving it a go, eh? Now, your sideboard consists of Boltyn Blade, Celestial Cataclysm. Those 2 cards are something when you always want to slot one of them in. I think you pick one or the other. If you're playing up against Dromai, you know, and Jamie will tell me off and go, why would you put rubbish cards in? Blah, blah, blah. But I would play these cards. I would generally play these cards into my deck, especially Boltyn Blade, Celestial Cataclysms as well. I would put them in and play them, because if you're playing a real slow game and you're building up loads of soul as you're just playing, because you can't seem to just go over, you have to block a bit more, play a card charge, and you've got your soul built up. Celestial Cataclysm gets into that realm of, right, this is getting really good. Boltyn Blade is a bit of a particular card. 4 for 7, it's like, whoa, that's not really good. But if you charge, like, you know, think Veer the Vanguard, charge twice, then you got 0 for 9. You know, that's when you go, oh, okay. 0 for 9 is crazy good. Most of the time, it's the card that you block with, card that you may pitch, card that you may charge. You know, at the end of the day, there isn't really a terrible card, especially as long as it's block 3, light, and it's yellow. You know, the card's not a dead waste, because you got to charge something. And this card can be the card that you need to charge with, or if the line play works out well, that this is actually the card you're playing, and the damage just gets really crazy. Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer is really good. I don't know why you never put it in. Always put it in. Right. Engulfing Light Blue. I put this in. I need some blues. If I need to stack up on blues, I need some more. Engulfing Light is my card that I go to stack up more. Again, block 3. It's a light card. It's the charge. It's all the other things that I need it to do. Plus, I just need to have some more blues just in case I'm getting frostlocked by Lexi, which I would give a shout out to, because I did a... although the guy was called Player 2. But if he's watching this, he knows. We had an amazing game against Lexi, and it's a real back and forth. It's one of those games where you need to slow down. You're not the aggressor; she's the aggressor, but you just got to just get your moments in when you can, because they don't always have arrows, and sometimes you can just just making sure their deck is getting thinner and thinner, and then you can then pop off. It doesn't take much to pop off. If you've got those moments to go, just take it and you can, then cool. Erased Face, I'm playing around with it. Viscerai is notoriously just a pain in the ass against Boltyn. So now we've actually got a card that can actually attack them in the way, like they don't have to just sit there and back and ignore what Boltyn's doing. As a Viceroy player, I know that whenever I'm playing up against Boltyn, unless they got some mad as hell Lumina Ascension attacks, you know, I tend to go, yeah, I don't care. Like, you can't stop what I'm doing if I've got Mortuary Ties and Revels, you know, or a Skies, you know, just a Skies, Shrill with Skies. You're just like, you know, Boltyn is a hungry hero. Despite the fact that everything costs 0 and 1, he needs to keep his cards like Reinhardt does. You know, you need to pitch, you need to play, you need to discard. This guy just needs to pitch, he needs to play, and he needs to charge. So, you know, you got to keep your cards in order to make it work, and Viceroy challenges that. Now we've got a raised face, we can actually just go, here you go, I'm going to take some cards out of you so I can get some tempo back. So I think this card is worthwhile, definitely including now. Sync Blows and the Soul Shields, pretty much a Guardian matchup. Again, you got to just be quite slow. You got to take your time. They've got big hits, and you need to stop it. Soul Shield is nuts, really good. The card is crazy. It's everything you want. 2 for 6, and if it goes into your soul, perfect. And Sync Blow is just, I suppose I'll put that in. I'll put that in against Katsus and Ninjas as well. They've got some on-hit effects, and some of them are just a little bit too much. So got to stop it, stop the mask hit, and then you can keep your cards and come at them again. Again, Ninjas have lots of attack action cards, so makes your game quite fun, especially when you're right near the end. If you manage to get their health down, oh man, they have they have nightmares. Boltyn is one of the most awkward and tough heroes to deal with, especially when you're on that lower life and they can just keep, you know, they're coming in for lethal, and everything you got is attack action cards, and you need to block it. You're effectively just making Boltyn going, oh, well, if you block it, I'm doing better, and you need to block it. So that's kind of what you need to do against Ninja. And Sync Blows, I put them in if I'm gonna play up against them. Snatch, Snatch is one of those cards that comes in, it comes out, it's in again. It might come out again, but it'll probably come back in again. 0 for 4, I'm trying to push over with on hits that draw cards, and if I can keep getting that line going, it is one of those cards that helps that out. It's just pushing over, more Bolt of Courage, just threatening that on hit. It's okay though. Sometimes I'm like, you think it's really good, and it is really good, but sometimes you're like, yeah, it's not what I always feel like I need. Sometimes you look at the plays in your hand and you're like, I feel like I want to charge this Snatch because it's just not lining up with what I want to do. One of the tricks as well, Boltyn, is you kind of want to make sure you've got a card you can charge with in the arsenal, because you don't tend to want, like, ideally you don't really want to play cards in your hand and charge a card in the same hand again. It's better if you can try and play a card out of arsenal that can charge from hand. That's usually from a long, I played Boltyn quite a lot back in Road to Nationals 1. This really has not changed since Monarch has kind of came out. Not that much anyway. The core rules are still the same. And yeah, making sure you had a card in arsenal to charge was kind of one of the primary things I always wanted to do, just as much as you always want to make sure you got a Moving Skies in an arsenal, because you don't know what you're going to draw. You need to make sure that you've got a card to keep that flow going with the deck. And Snatch, sometimes I don't know. That card I think you can take out. If you feel you're not feeling it, that's the card I'd say you can take out. Steelblade Shunt, I think, well, those blue, it's mainly we're going, I had nightmares against Dorinthia way back when I was playing up against Shin. That I needed to have something to have more defense reactions. Plus as well, it's good against Guardian. Being able to have that, more defense reactions. It's what they hate. That's what you love. So, but some of that, maybe that one could come out. Maybe you could put in Oasis Respite. Maybe. But it's the blue. Sometimes I need some blues as well against some ice heroes. But it's worth having a little play around. The Snatch, Steelblade Shunt, I think you could play around with that. I would keep the erased faces in against Viceroy. I think that can do more work than you think. Yeah, that's kind of it. That's my sort of early meta breakdown. I've been playing around with this on Talishar, having lots of people disconnect and not saying GG because no one likes losing to Boltyn, and I love playing Boltyn. It's been so much fun. I hope I'll again, links in the description. Have a play around, and see where see how you come up. It's brought a lot of joy back into me playing some Flesh and Blood again. Again, it's just great. It's just great. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Like and subscribe. We've got Patrons as well, all that jazz. We do lots of podcast episodes, but yeah, anyway, hope you enjoy it. Cheers.